If you have a cell phone, please shut it off or set it to vibrate. First item on the business, under continued business, is CB-2017-49, a variance. The applicant is Steve McLean. The property located at 34 Fisher Street. The petition is seeking the variance approval for the extension of a driveway at 34 Fisher Street. The project seeks relief under Section 5.3 for landscape open space, Section 6.1.10 for off-street parking, dimensional requirements, and for any other relief required of the low zoning ordinance. The subject property is located in the traditional two-family zoning district. Is there a representative from 34 Fisher Street?
Hi, I'm Jennifer. Stephen passed away December 13th. I'm the other owner of the house, so I'm just taking over.
Okay, so sorry to hear that, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, do you want to just continue?
Yeah, all I understand is just we're seeking relief for the parking spaces, the driveway, and for the green space.
Is there any new updates or developments since the last meetings?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's all you have to
I think everything looks to be in compliance. You know what I mean? My brother offered a description of what was, like in place and the change. And it's been a good change. It's been a good change to the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you so much. We're gonna open it to the public, then afterwards, we'll get back to you guys. Want to open up this petition, those liking to speak in favor of the petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that section of the portion is closed. I'd like to open up to people who want to speak in opposition. In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'm going to open up to the board now. Mr. Jimena?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. If I can just ask you a few questions anyway. Yeah, on doing the parking, have you considered about traffic in that area? I went by the place, it looks like a very closed area.
Yeah, it is.
Sir, could you speak into the microphone, please?
Yes, it's a very tight, neighborhood, it's very compact neighborhood. Steve has changed the property to make it, it's better than it was. In other words, there's several parking spaces off-street. It relieves the street for more than one parking space, you know what I mean? He's done the community a service. Plus, it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
If you take a look at how the property was when he got there and what's there now, it's been much enhanced.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
you can barely fit one car in the driveway before we started breaking up the
put a car in
driveway.
the parking lot before.
If you open the door, you would hit the stone wall.
Right, on both sides. You had a
both sides.
very compact car. It's now been done so there's two. And like this nice handrails, they did a really nice job. My brother died before I got back down here to help him. But, it's a handsome job. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Go over and see it.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the bad news anyway. I hope
Thank you.
it's in
Looks
a
good,
better
though.
place.
It's an enhancement to the neighborhood.
Yeah. So during the construction, are you going to have a flow of traffic or?
It's pretty much done. I mean, we're done, like, the house is done, other than like raking out the lawn and like grading the driveway with using like, Star Pack or something that would be a gravel to finish the driveway surface.
Okay.
The property is pretty much done.
Okay. I think I'm okay for now.
Thank you, Mr. Jimena. The chair recognizes Mr. Breer.
My condolences on the loss of your brother. I agree with you. that the property has been enhanced.
Yes, very
And it appears as though
beautiful.
you've made some adjustments that really weren't even required per
Right,
code.
you went above and
Okay.
beyond what
And
it
that
was
leads
asked.
me to believe that those enhancements, that's what's achieved.
We did a lot of it by
Go
hand, and
low.
I asked him,
Go
like, why
low.
don't we just get the excavator in right away? But
Right.
we were just trying to break up ground and just getting things started to make it look a lot
As a
better.
result, I have no further questions.
Spinners,
Wish you the best.
right? Let's go
Thank you.
spinners.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. Chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through, I'd like to ask a couple more questions, if I could. First one is that there were a number of comments made by the Department of Planning and Development, and I don't know if you've reviewed those. And I think the last time you were here, we kind of asked you if you could look at those comments and see if there was anything there that you could address. In particular, there's a number of comments that relate to changing a few things to make it no longer requiring a variance. I think there's a parking space width that is 9 feet, and I think that we only require 8 feet.
Okay,
So that would allow us to maintain a 3-foot space setback from the property line.
That's right, Steve
Okay.
said that that would change
Right.
the allowance, yeah.
So is that something that we could make a condition, that we would
yes, that's,
approve this based on an 8-foot parking space width?
yes,
allowing
that's
for 3
fine.
foot?
I agree with that.
That does make sense, okay. I think that makes sense, too, as well. And then the other question would be the type of surface that you're using, since you're not in compliance with the amount of green space that we see with these properties, it's by zoning code. What are you expecting to put down for a parking material?
Stephen, he
pack.
was talking about, like the crushed stone or
Star
Pack?
pack.
Star pack?
It's like granite crushing.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe
I
I could
think we
just
should just
ask,
pave
is
it, though.
is that something that we could approve
common.
as
They let it
being
screen.
pervious? Is Star Pack something that the city would recognize as pervious versus asphalt or concrete?
I'm sure that the applicants could work with the engineering department on finding a material that we would deem pervious
We
in
would
this
tar
case.
it if that's what they would like, but I
So-
thought Star Pack was like more better because it's more moisture permeable. It allows drainage.
So maybe a condition would be to work with the DP, to try to use the Star Pack material in order to provide for a pervious paving system.
Yeah,
Does
it's
that
at
make
least
sense?
a base. It's at least a base, you know what I mean?
Okay. Terrific. I think that's
Thank
really
you.
all that I was hoping for,
Okay,
and again,
Very much.
we are very sad for your loss.
I know, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Chair recognizes Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too sympathize, and my deepest condolences for
Thank
your
you.
loss. Sorry, ma'am, I don't think at the beginning you stated your name for the record on who you,
I'm Jennifer Bonner.
okay, what was
Yeah,
your relationship?
I'm the
to-
co-owner, I'm Stephen's girlfriend.
Okay, what else was your relationship to Mr. McLean? He was the applicant on this, so.
We have a son together, and we were together 10 years.
Okay, so, my concern mainly is more on a legal aspect on this, because I know you're the co-owner of the property, but my understanding reviewing the deed is you're tenants in common and not tenants, not joint, don't hold in joint tenancy.
Right, that's right, no survivorship, so I might have to sell, be forced to sell the home.
And I understand what you're trying to go through, but I think, like I said, my main concern is on the legal aspect, granting the relief, how that may affect Mr. McLean's estate's part of this, part of the ownership on the property.
Right, he's half
so-
owner, so.
I'm apt to probably request or suggest that we maybe continue this to the next meeting and see if we can get the law department to weigh in on on how this may affect, because Mr. McLean was the applicant, the initial applicant.
Right,
It's-
exactly.
It's
Well,
unfortunate and
it's
tragic that he's, no longer with us, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of one of those, it's a little nuanced thing. It's like, I just want to make sure that
Okay,
you're protected. That's just my suggestion. I mean, you can do whatever, it's up to you. I mean,
right.
it'd be
I
up to
just
you,
want to
but-
finish it, and I might just have to sell it.
I understand that, but I mean, it's certainly to protect your interests as well as
Okay.
Mr. McLean's. That would be my suggestion at this point.
Right,
I mean, as far as the relief itself, before getting to that, that's kind of where I'm coming from on this, so, but that's my suggestion at this point right now, and, but I'll leave it up to whatever the rest of the board wants to do, so, all right.
okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. So after hearing the board speak, I think it's in your best interest maybe to consider continuous to our next meeting on the 12th, till we figure out and finalize, the ownership of the house, and we can consult with the law department
Okay.
and all that.
In February?
Yeah, February 12th is the next meeting.
Excuse me, just one more thing, guys. You haven't heard any complaints from any neighbor? Am I correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
You know what I'm saying? In other words, everything he's done has been without regard to a neighbor or something, and they're in very tight quarters.
That's all well and good, but I think, I'm a lawyer myself, but I'm just looking at it from that
You know what I'm
perspective.
saying?
Is
I mean,
if
the
Mr. McLean has
reality is
some-
he tried to respect, he talked to both
some-
neighbors on either side.
I don't know, if he has some beneficiaries that come making claims on his part of the property, and you've done
That's right.
things that weren't acceptable to them, that's why I'm pretty much trying to put all the legal ducks in a row. So, and if we get something from the law department that says, yeah, you guys, it's okay for you to proceed, it may even be something that, I don't know, Ms. Bonner, maybe either you might have to, I think if you might have to reapply as the applicant or something, I don't know, but I would be much more comfortable hearing from the law department to try to get an
Okay.
idea
Yeah,
of.
we're trying to bring the lot into
That's fine.
compliance.
Yep, no, part of that too is to, you got to, looking ahead and looking to the future, and, like I said, it's part of to protect, a little bit to protect you too, Ms. Bonner, so that's just, like I said, that's just my
Okay,
suggestion, so.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan. Mr. McCarthy?
I just had a question for Jared. If the applicant doesn't require the dimensional requirement issue with the maintaining 3-foot setback, if they go to an 8-foot parking space, and if they change the material to something that's pervious, using the our Star Pack material, would they even need to come before us? Because they might be able to accomplish what zoning is requiring.
So my understanding is that as regards the driveway width, that the opportunity by decreasing the width of the driveway would not have eliminated the need to get a variance in that case. It would have just reduced essentially the size of the variance, the amount of space that they're
Okay.
requesting on either side. Because you also have the setback from the other building that's on the lot adjacent to theirs. So essentially you have the setback from that building and then a setback from the lot line. And then as regards the pervious surface, I believe that in that case, we would still be regarding it as a driveway, so in that case, it would not be counted as usable open space, but it could be a way to view it as being maybe less detrimental if it is a pervious surface versus an asphalt surface driveway.
I was trying.
Okay.
Probably didn't work. All right.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Any more comments from the board?
Star Pack.
All right, seeing none.
That's what he wants.
So, Ms. Barnes, so I think you heard the wishes of the board. We're probably going to continue this to our next meeting on the 12th of February, just to get an update from the law department concerning this application. So that being said, could I get a motion to continue this to our next meeting?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2017-49 for a variance for 34 Fisher Street to be continued to February 12th.
Thank you.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Peck?
Continue.
Member McCarthy?
Continue?
Member Callahan?
Continue to February 12th.
Member Briere?
Continue.
Member Jimina.
Continue.
All right, that's been continued.
Just as Jared, we can get something to the law department about.
Absolutely, we can follow up with the law
question as to
department.
Whether we can, how that would affect this proceeding. So,
Yes,
thank
absolutely.
you, Jared.
So you'll
Thank
be
you.
hearing from us, Ms. Barnes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Also, Patrick said to give this to Jared, the original packet. Excuse me.
All right, moving on to our next agenda item on the new business, ZB-2018-1. The petition type, site plan review and special permit. The applicant is Reno Properties LLC, the property located at 39 Myrtle Street. The petition, the applicant is seeking a request for relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals to add 9 more residential dwelling units into the former Varnum School building located at 39 Myrtle Street. The existing parcel is 47,600 square foot and has a 3-story building of approximately 32,000 square feet. The parcel is located in the traditional 2-family zoning district and requires variance under section 5.1 table of dimension regulations for lot area per dwelling unit and minimum usable open space per dwelling unit, and under section 8.1.3 for off-street parking from the zoning board, as well as approve any other relief as required under the zoning ordinance. Counselor, go ahead.
Good evening, Attorney George Theodoro, 133 Market Street, representing the applicant, Reno Properties, LLC. We were before the planning board last Thursday, in which we had, the applicant requested relief for site plan review and for to revise the special permit that was in existence with respect to this particular building. Now, this property is known as the Old Varnum School. It was the first public school in Centerville. It was built in 1857. And it operated as a public school until the year 2008, at which time it became too expensive for the city to maintain. The city, a short time thereafter, placed the property out for bid in a request for proposal, and it was purchased by the current owner. In 2013, that property was permitted before the planning board under Section 8 of the zoning ordinance, 8.1.3, to convert an existing structure into residential units. This was allowed. The site plan was approved. The special permit was granted to convert the property into 21 residential units. And due to the fact that they were able to fulfill all the requirements under Section 8.1.3, they did not have to come to the Board of Appeals to obtain variances for lot area per dwelling unit or open space, because they fulfilled all the other requirements. So they obtained waivers from the planning board at that time. So the plan was approved, and it exists as it currently exists with 21 parking spaces for the residential units. It complied with the parking. So when that property was developed, they were not able to develop the gym, to use the historic tax credits to apply to the gym at that time, due to the fact that they would have to renovate the gym as a gymnasium, and it was not economically feasible for them to do that. So the property has been ongoing. And along comes my client, Mr. Reno, who wishes to purchase this property. And in order for this property to work for him, to continue to maintain this historic building, which is on the National Historic Register, to maintain it and to reinvest in this building, my client, in his assessment, looked at the property and determined that he would have to renovate and add residential units to the undeveloped gymnasium as well as the basement. Mr. Reno owns approximately 40 units in the area. This property is located at the corner of 6th Myrtle and Beach Street, and he owns 4 properties on 5th Street, which is 1 block over. So he is committed and is invested in the community and this area. And he is looking to put in 6 units of approximately 1,200 square feet in the gym and 3 units of approximately 1,000 square feet in the basement. And in going through the process with the planning board, it was determined that these improvements that would be placed in there, that he would also, for the exterior, add some more landscaping out there in some of the beds that exist to enhance that, to add some lighting to the building so there would be a prominent-looking building at night from the ground up, and also to add security cameras at all the 4 corners of the building. Those security cameras will be used by the neighborhood association, as well as piped into the police department, if that is possible. We had meetings with the neighborhood association, and at those meetings, they went over the situation, over the redevelopment of the money, and we're going to add and do improvements, a new fence on the 6th Street side, a new fence on the Myrtle Street side, increase the landscaping, and then we discussed one of the important issues, which was parking. Parking was an important issue at the planning board, and they determined that, given the parking study that we had, for some reason, this school, which most likely throughout the years, nobody could park around the school, that it has a tremendous amount of off-street parking available around the perimeter of the school. So we understand that this in itself is not a criteria to go ahead and say that this is permissible. However, in this instance, it's so abundant and so clear that this parking exists on 240 feet of the frontage on Myrtle Street, another 200 on 6th Street, and another 240 feet on the other side on Beach Street. And we reviewed the area, we took photographs, and we saw that this is completely underutilized, and that there would be sufficient parking around the perimeter of the building to handle the 18 additional parking spaces that are needed. Also, we provided information that the current use of the parking is underutilized. There are 15 parking spaces available. Only 26 spaces are used right now, but we fully understand that that could change next week, next month, or next year. But the parking that's available around the building, you really scratch your head when you see it. And Myrtle Street itself, right in front of the buildings, is a very wide public way, and it was discussed at the last meeting that one of the alternatives to consider would be to put some angled parking. Angled parking alone, which is, I believe, 12 by 8 is the size of a parking space under the ordinance, that if we did angled parking over there, we could probably fulfill the parking requirement just along there. So we went through this project and made the best decisions that we could in presenting this. And as you know, because of the waiver, when this was first approved in 2013, they did not have to come here to the planning board for lot area per dwelling unit or for open space. Those physical conditions haven't changed. They obtained waivers then. They exist in the same condition as they do now. So those numbers have not changed. And the physical layout of this building can't ever change. We have a hardship in that we have a physical layout of this building for the size and shape of this lot, but historically, we have to deal with what we have. We're not building from the ground up on this. We're trying to improve with what we have. And in putting these high-quality residential units in this neighborhood here is something that the neighborhood likes, the neighborhood wants, and I think it provides a need that we are fulfilling. So in this application, that it is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. I believe that it is consistent with the ordinance, and that in granting this, it would not derogate the intent of the ordinance itself, but it's an improvement to the neighborhood, the community, and the city. With that being said, we'd like you to consider this application favorably, for without granting these variances, we would not be able to make the continued investment in this building to support it. And the economics are such, and you'll hear from the current owner, are such that this is necessary to go forward and support this. So we ask for your support in this, and thank you. We'll be here to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Now we're going to open up to the public. Those wishing to speak in opposition, please step forward. In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that section of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? In favor? Go ahead, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chairman, board members, good evening. My name's Richard Underwood. I'm the current owner of 39 Myrtle Street. We developed this project, as he said, in 2013. My brother and I, we put our heart and soul into this building. We love this building. It's a important part of that neighborhood. At the time, as Mr. Theodore had mentioned, we did what we could to satisfy the bank and allow the apartments that we needed at the time. But as 3 years later now, as we go forward, it became quite evident to us that this building needed more value brought to it, more income to do the things that it needed to do. On top of that, I took a new job recently, and took a lot of my time away from that building. So we're not walking away from this building. We're actually looking for somebody to come in and do what's needed for that building. And although this board looks at parking very, very heavily and very crucial to neighborhoods, I just like to remind this board that this piece of property is very crucial to this neighborhood. It went undeveloped for over 7 years when we bought it, and was in bad shape. So to let this building fail, and I'm not going to say it's going to fail, but it makes just enough money to pay the bills over there. The things that it needs income. And right now, the new owners came to us and made an offer. We hemmed and hawed about it. We thought, you know what, this is what this neighborhood, this is what this building needs to make it right again. And it's still a beautiful building. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it, but it needs some more work. It needs some more income to do that. So although the neighborhood may be losing a little bit of off-street parking, I think this building is a crucial part of that neighborhood, and I think it way outweighs the benefits than it does losing a few parking spots in the street. And I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you approve this project.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this application? In favor? In favor? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jim Jazokis, project architect. I grew up in Centerville. I live in Centerville. I live up on Christian Hill on 13th Street. My family goes back 5 or 6 generations on the hill. Same with my wife's. Know the property very well because I went to school there. And I do feel like this property is very underutilized. When I was the project architect on the 4th Street Firehouse, that was in disrepair. It came out great. There's 3 units in there. It works out well. We saved the building. Same when we privately renovated the top of 3rd Street in Beacon. There's a beautiful Victorian up there that we went in and took over that property, as well as renovated that with Dave Daly Construction, among many other properties up on the hill. And I definitely wouldn't be in favor of something like this because I am so engrossed in that neighborhood. And I would, on a professional level, happy to address any questions regarding the architectural portion of the project. But the views from the upper level is incredible. I live up on 13th. From my vantage point, I have a fantastic view of the downtown. This building has 10 times that. These windows are very similar to these. The ceiling is just like this. It's 25 feet. It's an enormous space, and it's just sitting there. And there's no reason why it should. So I would gladly see an approval on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor, in favor? Hearing none, I've been over comments to the board. Mr. Jimena.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Excuse me. Yeah, I want to agree with you that the building is actually in a very nice neighborhood. My only question to you is, you have some conditions by the planning board.
That's correct.
Yeah, so how far have you gone with that?
We were just approved last week. Last Thursday was our approval from the planning board, so we haven't gone forward on those conditions.
Okay, so you're all set with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jameda. Chair recognizes Mr. Brier.
I have no questions, just a comment. I want to applaud you for your investment in the Centerville neighborhood. I'm a product of Centerville myself, and the historical integrity of the building has always been a priority of yours. It's been protected. There's also, the public should know, a veteran's preference that's always been in place for those rental units. And anything that I can do to assist you in your further development, count me in. Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brier. The chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the things I'd like to see us going forward here is to adopt the 9 conditions from the planning board as part of our conditions going forward here. But looking at the, oh, by the way, it's a great building, great project, and I agree with you, there's an awful lot of underutilized space there that should be taken advantage of. And there's an awful lot of on-street parking, no question about it. And you did a parking study to show that it's underutilized currently as it stands, so great application.
Thank you.
So I wanted to start with the dumpster location. Where is the dumpster
Well,
location?
the
And what are
dumpster,
you proposing?
as you're standing in front of the building on Myrtle Street at the entrance to the opening to the parking lot, the dumpster is to the right in what would be equidistant from each side of the parking lot, that I would say that is along the side where Fifth Street is.
Yep.
That's where the current dumpster is. We agreed to screen that dumpster. That's a requirement, and it was brought up at the planning board meeting that we would go ahead and screen that dumpster.
So is there going to need to be a second dumpster?
Well, that was an issue that we discussed. I don't know if there's room. However, what we talked about is I don't see there's any reason why we can't have at least 2 pickups for trash for the dumpster per week to accommodate it. I don't think that would be unduly burdensome. And we did discuss that. I did discuss that with Mr. Reno, that if we needed to, as the need arises for these other units, because there's going to be additional trash, to have a pickup twice a week instead of once a week.
And you'd rather go that direction than having a second dumpster in the event that you might lose in another parking space? Is that kind of where you're going at that?
That's correct. If we don't want to lose any parking, we don't want to lose any of the handicap parking. But do you think there's room over there?
Members of the board, Bill Reno, Reno Properties. There actually is 43 parking spots, and the reason why they always called it 42 was the dumpster was assumed to take up one of those spots. But again, pick up twice a week or even 3 times a week, trash standing less time, in my opinion anyways, is always better. So again, 42 spots is what it's always been called, but there is actually 43 in the parking lot, but -1 due to the dumpster.
So maybe as a condition that the dumpster will be emptied no less than 2 times a week?
Absolutely not an issue. Again, if
Okay.
the building's cleaner, everybody else is happier too, so.
And then snow removal or snow storage?
Yep.
Or snow removal, I'm not sure what it is.
Whichever way it goes, yeah, I guess depending on the winter.
What is the plan for snow storage on the
So
site?
right now, there is spots inside of the existing lot where snow can be piled. But again, if it does become an issue, if we do get winters like a couple winters ago, by all means, it can be removed off-site.
Okay. All right. I think that's about it. So I think we're going to make a condition to adopt the 9 conditions from the planning department, and then that the dumpster will be empty no less than twice a week, as far as I see it. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Chair recognizes Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very well put together project. I got to commend, looking at the plans by Mr. Jazokis are really, really very nice and very well put together, and looks like something that this building would benefit from. One thing that caught my eye really was so you're asking for the 6 units for the loft and 3 units in the basement, but the plan for the basement units has 4 units. So I'm kind of curious about that.
More conceptual right now. There is space for 4. That's kind of once we get into construction or once we finalize the plans to really choose which space is going to be best. Again, conceptually, when Jim walked in, he said, I'll give you our options, what we can.
Okay.
And again, we can fit 4. Again, we're going for 3 in the basement. That's all we want.
Okay.
That's more of just, once we really start getting into the actual construction plans, we would finalize which 3 we would use.
Okay.
Just basically what's going to be the easiest and what's going to be the best for a tenant down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and the plans also, when I'm looking at the plans, they don't appear to be studio apartments. They appear to be 1-bedrooms that are laid out. So that's why, those are the
Yes.
only things that kind of really caught
yes,
my
again,
eye.
conceptual plans, so not everything there is 100%. I mean, in our minds, the loft spaces up in the gymnasium are probably pretty close to how they are going to be.
Yeah.
But again, the basement is still a little bit.
Got it. And then, yeah, so the empty space on the part of the plans for the base, is that just basically going to be for storage, the one where you?
Right now, it is just empty space, yes. I mean, again, in the future, could it turn into a community room or something like
Okay.
that? It's a possibility, yes. But there's absolutely no plans for extra units or anything like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are the only things that kind of caught my eye. Just want to kind of clarify. But if you're going for 3.
Yes,
then
correct.
That's
No,
fine.
you're
I
right.
just want to
Absolutely right.
make sure we're clear on that. So, but again, I think, yeah, based on everything else, it looks like, yes, this is something that would definitely be a benefit for the community. There hasn't been any opposition, and I noticed that the Centerville Society, they were very favorable of it. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. So after hearing the board speak, I think, your petition is going to be something that's a benefit to the city. I agree with the sentiments of a lot of my colleagues. It's a good reuse or repurpose of this site. And on a personal note, I did also grow up in Centerville, so I've seen this building kind of just, lay waste over the years. So I'm happy to see it, repurposed to something useful. And you're okay with the 9 conditions from the planning board and the other condition of twice a week pickup from the dumpster?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. That being said, could I have a motion?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2018-1 for 39 Myrtle Street, for variances under Section 5.1 for lot area per dwelling unit and minimum unusable open space, and Section 8.1.32 for off-street parking, with the following conditions: that the board adopt the 9 conditions set forth by the planning board. And the second condition is that the dumpster to be emptied no less than twice per week.
Can I get a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brier. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Peck,
Approve of conditions.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve of conditions.
Member Briere,
Approve with conditions.
Member Jamina.
Approve with conditions.
Congratulations, sir. You've been approved with conditions. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is ZB-2018-2. The petition type is a variance. The applicant is David Smart. The property is located at 16 Sharon Silko. The petition, the applicant is seeking variance approval to construct a 10-foot by 24-foot addition to an existing single-family home located at 16 Sharon Circle. The parcel is located in the suburban single-family zoning district and requires a variance under section 5.1, table of dimensional regulations for minimum front yard setback and any other relief required of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Mr. Smart,
Yes.
how are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to review. I'm looking for a 10 by 24 addition to extend my bedrooms. Bought the house a year ago, and they're just too small to fit the bedroom sets and stuff, so I'm just looking to extend it. It was brought up to me that by putting the extension on, it will impact my driveway. I had already had plans on doing something with the driveway, because when it snows out, I live in a cul-de-sac, and it's on a slight hill, so when the car would come in, it would slide back out. So I knew I had to fix that as well, but I didn't want to fix that until I put the addition on, if it's approved, because it would be tearing up the driveway.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Anything else you want to let the board know, sir?
No.
Okay. Just going to open up the meeting to the public. Anyone would like to speak in opposition of this petition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wish to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We're going to open up to the board for comments and questions. Mr. Jimena?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, actually, it's a nice neighborhood. My only concern was the elevation there for erosion, for, how you gonna deal with that? What do you plan to do to, for the hill there?
The hill, I would just be moving, moving the driveway over a few feet and flattening it out. I wouldn't be touching the hill,
Okay,
because it's a cul-de-sac, so I have room there to move the driveway to.
okay. I'm just concerned about, with all the digging, probably you might distort the soil, for the hill. If there's something you can do to probably just minimize, any.
Well, there's already a leach field there. I say leach field, but it's a water drain that's already in place that takes the water, and so it won't impact.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Jimena. The chair recognizes Mr. Breer.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Breer. The chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a really odd-shaped lot, and it's
Yes,
a
it
really
is.
odd way the house was placed on the lot. And I understand your interest in making an improvement, and then we are set with a front yard setback.
That's-
And I think that the variance meets the conditions with the odd shape that you have, and I don't think that you would really impact the zoning by the request that you have going from 25 feet to 18, so I see nothing wrong, especially where it's only that one corner of that piece there. So I really see no problem with the
Thank you.
request at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. The chair recognizes Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Dennis that, yeah, you're right, it is an odd-shaped lot, and but it's, it appears to be, that you're,
No matter what I do,
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to
What-
be in front of you guys.
Exactly, and that's part of the reason, like, for the zoning, for the variance and stuff like that, especially when the first condition is
Yeah.
dealing with the circumstances related to the condition of the property and whatnot, and it appears to me that the relief that you're seeking isn't all that
Thank you.
bad. I mean, just 18.2 feet as opposed to 25, which is the requirement, which is not under the circumstance considering, I think you've met the requirements under the zoning code as far as the granting of a variance, and I wish you the best of luck. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. I think I share the same sentiments of my colleagues. This petition makes sense. You are on a odd-shaped kind of hill structure in your home, and there's no opposition. So I think for me, I would approve it as well. So that being said, could I have a motion on this petition?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2018-2 for a variance at 16 Sharon Circle, for variance for, under section 5.1 for minimum front yard setback.
Could I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Can I have a roll call?
Member Peck,
Approve.
Member McCarthy,
Approve.
Member Callahan,
Approved.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Jamina.
Approve.
Congratulations, you've been approved. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
We're just going to take a 1-minute recess, and we'll resume in 1 minute.
Silly that this thing doesn't have a. I know. I need a lip on it, but why? So before we can't afford a low bar.
Should I put,
Just put like Walker Consultants. It's unfortunate. I tried it earlier. The laser pointer doesn't work on those screens. So you guys have to try to describe. Maybe try to say. When you get going, if you hit escape, the black code will go away and the thing will come up. It's just forward. Thanks.
I think we don't have the schedules for the meetings for the whole year, right? They get it?
They do have one. I received one.
Oh, okay, all right.
They sent one out earlier. He'll be able to provide you with one.
Okay, no, it's okay. If you say no, I'll get it. I just, ready to see it.
No, I got an email on it some weeks back. Yeah. All set, thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to resume the meeting. The next order of business, the last item on the agenda, ZB-2018-3, the petition type is a variance. The applicant is the City of Lowell. The property is located at 350.4 Dutton Street. The petition, the applicant is seeking variance approval for the construction of a new public parking garage at 350.4 Dutton Street, located in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District under section 6.1.10 and 10.3.8.3, number 14, and any other relief required of the Lowell ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Janowitz.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Joseph Jenowitz, Urban Renewal Project Manager on behalf of the City of Lowell. I'm here tonight with Chris Gradziel from Walker Consultants, Josh Damasca and Miranda Polpicelli from VHB, part of our design team. And I want to recognize as well Claire Ricker, our Chief Design Planner, also part of the design team for this exciting project that we have before you tonight in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. It's the city's public parking garage. They'll be there to support development throughout the district. Right now, we're tracking right around between 900 and 1,000 parking spaces for the garage. And we're bringing an application tonight that, on its face might look like a lot of relief with 6 variances. But I think as we kind of get down into the details of the application, you'll see as we've gone through the design process, we're really trying to adhere to, the spirit of the form-based code and the Hamilton Canal District Master Plan. But there are things that came up as we got further into design that needed some attention and needed to come for an application to this board. So just to give a little context, looking at the parcel here highlighted in blue, right within the Hamilton Canal District, and it's also, going to, for the most part, be an extension of downtown, and it's also, pretty centrally located with a number of other city projects that are going on that you've probably heard about, like the Streets F&G project along with the Signature Bridge, the overpass that's going to get done over as well, wind development, developing parcels 8 and 9 in the district. So again, a little bit more context to show you where this parcel is. It's parcel 14 on the plan here, in this drawing here. And I just want to emphasize that the design that we have before you, it's not something that we just came off, in one shot. It's been something that we've gone through a number of iterations to get to, but we feel like we're at a point in the design where the garage balances not only, functioning well, but also is something that will be attractive to the neighborhood, but it's also a structure that you can recognize, this is a parking garage, this is where I'm supposed to go when I'm trying to get into the district and go to the various places that we hope will be there in the near future. And going along with looking at the city's master plan, the goals and objectives, we've constantly gone back over the last 10 years since the master plan for this district was developed to a neighborhood group. A week and a half ago, we did meet with the neighborhood group at the Jambra meeting. And I just wanted to touch on a couple items that came up at that meeting before we got into the details of this presentation. One item that came up and was done back when the master plan was developed was a shadow study for a number of buildings that are proposed throughout the district. So that way people can understand for some of the existing buildings that are out there, just what the impacts are going to be of this development. And there was a question about it, given one of the variances you'll hear about tonight, the upper levels of the garage needing an extra 5 feet on how that would impact shadows. That original shadow study was done by Icon Architecture. And I was able to get a hold of Mark Murata. He was still there. He was the one who did the shadow study back in 2008, 2009. So he did provide some additional analysis for us. And the greatest difference that we saw from having a 5 feet, if the board were to approve that, was an additional 6 inches of shadow on Canal Place 3, which is the building right across the wasteway over there on the map, right in the September timeframe in the evening time. So that seemed to be the greatest variation. So it's really minimal, mainly because the upper section casts most of its shadow on the lower tier, which you'll kind of see as we go through the design of the garage. Another item that's come up since that meeting with the Jambra group and came up during that meeting, was about access to Canal Place 3 parking lot. I spoke with the gentleman, Paul Alfin, I hope I'm saying his last name right, this morning, actually. We were talking about access to Canal Place 3. The intention at this point for cars exiting the garage, and Chris will get a little bit more into this, is that they will be taking just a left turn only out, so they'll be going back towards Street F, so that way you won't have cars taking a right out of the garage and being tempted to try to cut through Canal Place 3's property to get over to Market Street. We're looking at different design options to make it so that would be emergency access only, something for only fire trucks or anything like that to be able to get to the Canal Place 3 parking lot. One concern that Paul raised is coming up right now with another adjacent project is access to their property from Market Street, where they're concerned about access getting closed off on the Market Street side. That on the one hand is an item to be worked out between Canal Place 3 and that property owner. But having said that, if something were to happen where the Market Street access were cut off, we could look at creating some sort of curb cut opening on the future Street G, where this garage is getting access to, so vehicles could be able to get to their parking spaces in Canal Place 3. So I just wanted to bring a couple of those items up now, just so the board was aware of them, let you know that we're, again, trying to work with our neighbors, trying to work how we can accommodate them in any way we can. And one other one that came up later, and we'll touch upon that, is the green wall. But for now, I'll turn it over to Chris, who will get into more of the details of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for seeing us tonight. Just to give everyone a basic layout of what we're talking about with the garage here. On the left-hand side of the plan is Street F. That's the planned street that the city just awarded a contract to to start construction on. That's going to be the main spine through this piece of the Hamilton Canal District. That's going to connect Dutton Street and Broadway Street over to Canal Street via a brand-new bridge. That's going to be built as part of that project on the lower left-hand corner of the garage. We'll be talking a lot about Street G, which is the other street which runs perpendicular to Street F along the upper part of the garage as you see it in the plan. And the project's also bounded by the Pawtucket Canal on the bottom part of the plan there. And like Joe mentioned before, there's the Tail Race or Wasteway Canal over on the right-hand side, which separates this project from the Canal Place building. So moving forward into the specifics of what we're looking for. Projections. These are the basic variance requests that we've asked for, particularly as it relates to projections, some of the garage depth. One thing I'll talk about a lot when we talk about that is parking module and level of service, and just to define those two pieces of parking design jargon. The module is what we call the module is measured from the head of a parking space across the drive aisle to the head of the opposite car in the parking space. And then Walker uses level of service to define parking geometrics, similar to how civil engineers use level of service to evaluate traffic at intersections and roadway design. So those are two things that I'll keep coming up in my discussion. Another is the northwest street wall setback, parking modules in the lower center bay, curb cut of the entry exit onto the future Street G. And then Joel will speak about the removal of the green wall at the end of the presentation. So the first variance request we have is based on using the geometrics that are in the zoning code aren't actually spelled out in the Hamilton Canal District. So we go to the regular zoning code for those geometrics. And the nice thing is that the geometrics that are required for the downtown district are pretty much in line with what Walker considers level of service B design, which is what we would use in a situation like this. We very rarely go to level of service A. That's where you would, you have a concern of like elderly drivers at a hospital or something of that nature. B is very typical for the Boston metro area. And then C and D would be lower levels of service. D is something that you would want to ultimately avoid, and C is something that we would really only want to use in like downtown Boston or Cambridge, someplace like that. So the good news is that the parking geometrics that are in the downtown district are pretty close in line with what Walker considers design level B. And what that has done is we've set the width of the garage, it's 3 bays wide. So adding up the modules of those 3 bays puts our east face of our building pretty close to the required setback that's in the form-based code along that east side, which that setback is 15 feet from the face of the canal. So being that those canals are so old, it's not a perfect straight line. What I can tell you is that the concrete in the structure of the garage is all behind that 15-foot line. And what we have now is we have some screening and some green screen elements that have been applied to that face of the building based on requirements in the form-based code. And because of the meandering of that wall, certain sections of that screening cross that 15-foot setback in the order of magnitude 6 inches or so. And then the other piece that crosses that line are planters for the green screen, and we're asking for the 2 feet. The 2 feet really covers those isolated green screens. It doesn't cover the whole entire of that face. So moving on from here, just check my notes. In looking at that plan, you can see the red line in that plan represents the 15-foot setback from the wall, and then the dashed lines represent the extents of the architectural items that are crossing that line. The next thing is the garage depth. So as the form-based code requires right now, we're limited to a building depth of 120 feet from the western property line. So when you're looking at the plans, that's the left-hand side of the plans. When you're looking at this image that we have on the screen here, that's on the back side of the garage, the form-based code only allows 120 feet. So if you take the downtown zoning requirement of a 60-foot module, we have 2 parking bays there, that's 120 feet. So when the form-based code was written, we don't believe that things like structure and architecture and construction tolerances were built into that. What we're proposing is to extend that 120 feet to 125 feet, allowing room for structure, architecture, and some construction tolerance. If we did have to maintain that 120 feet, what would happen is we would have modules that are well below the city zoning, and then they would also be classified as by Walker as below level service D. So as you can imagine, it would be very difficult for cars to get in and out of parking spaces and to navigate around each other as they were parking in those 2 bays of the garage. Here's the plan. You can see the 2 upper bays and what we're proposing. So variance request 3, the form-based code requires that we have a certain percentage of street wall along the north and west sides of the parcel along the street F and E, and then also G. What we've done is we did a study of several different options of where to bring cars in and out of the garage. And this location has resulted in the best design, both from the internal circulation of the garage, but we also feel it's also beneficial to the neighborhood and the ultimate design of the district. We did investigate several options where we brought cars in on the west face of the garage. Two major problems there. First thing is, as we get more south on the building, the opening would be kind of like a John Street garage style, where there was no real sight lines between the exiting vehicles and people on the sidewalk. You'd be essentially pulling up to an exit right on the sidewalk. So, not being a real great design in terms of, people having to cross by right there. And we also investigated putting the openings in more to the north side of that west elevation, and we felt that design wasn't really great because that would run driveways right across the 2 adjacent parcels and really take away from the opportunity that the city has on the parcel 13 and the street E parcels to put in additional green space and be beneficial to the district and also the neighborhood. The other piece of the street wall setback that I wanted to talk about is we also investigated bringing the face of the parking and the garage out to that face. And to not tell a long and boring story, parking doesn't play well when you take 90-degree parking and then turn it at a slight angle like this, like 15 or 30 degrees. And what we found was that even if we pushed the face of the building out there and provided parking in that area above the entry exit, that we would really only gain 1 space per level. And the real killer was that the efficiency on those levels would really drop down, resulting in a higher cost per space for the city. So we did a cost-benefit analysis on that, and we decided that didn't make a lot of sense as well. The other really important thing is that Street F, which I mentioned before, which is going to connect Broadway Street and it's Broadway Street, right? Yeah, Broadway Street and Canal Street, that's really going to be the thoroughfare through this district. Is going to see a lot more traffic. And with the entries and exits on that west side, utilizing Street F, we did some queuing analysis at the gates, which is standard that Walker does that, but we found that there would likely be backups for entering traffic onto that street if those exits were in very close proximity. So, i.e., John Street, where you have the exit right across the sidewalk there. This allows to have some queuing before you can have 2 or 3 cars pull up before they even get to the gates. So the 2 benefits there is that the Street G, especially this portion, is really only going to be utilized by possibly Canal Place, like Joe said, parkers in the garage, possibly the future development that's going to go on that parcel north of the garage, and then a little bit of National Park access at the end of the future Street G. So that street is really going to be the have a real decrease in the level of traffic flow on it. So it's good. This gets the cars away from that main sort of thoroughfare and connector. This one is just kind of a minor one, but we wanted to bring it to everyone's attention and ask for a variance. The way that the structure comes together, not to tell a long story, there are walls in the upper portion of the garage that are a foot thick, and then there are some walls that go underneath in the bottom level only that are 14 inches thick. So we have a 60-foot module in all the levels of the ramp except for the very bottom ramp, and that's 2 inches below the DMU requirement of 60 feet. If we had to move that out to get 60 feet, that means we'd have to push all the levels above out as well. And we'd be asking for 5 feet and 2 inches instead of 5 feet in the levels above. So that one's a real sort of a quick one. And then the next thing we want to talk about is some of the curb cut issues. I'm going to hand that over to my civil engineer, Justin Mosca from VHB.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so one of our variances, we're going through the zoning, is it requires a minimum 20-foot drive aisle and a maximum 25-foot curb cut, which I believe could work, and this is in the downtown district, could work for a standard driveway to a development. I don't think it's intended to mean for a parking garage. We essentially have, we have 4 lanes. We're necking them down to 2, one in, one out, but essentially it's going to be 16 feet in each direction. Plus a separator island. So when you come out to the, in total, it's about 35 feet of the actual driveway. And then the sketch inside the zoning code actually, if you take those radii, it's actually dimensioned to the outside of the flares. So the 25 feet would not work in this situation. Ours, we're requesting up to 66 feet be allowed just because, again, it's consistent with some of the other garages in the city. And it'll help with the use that we have here with the multiple driveways. Again, it's from a site perspective, going onto the street, it's just going to work with turning, so we avoid those conflicting movements of exiting cars and entering cars on a 20-foot width roadway. And then the last one, Joe, if you want to talk about green wall.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so just to touch on the green wall a little bit, so this was another item that came up during the Jambra meeting. The neighbors over at Canal Place have real concern about potentially, a lot of light coming in from the garage into their units. So a lot of the folks there like the concept of the green wall. However, they would like some sort of backup plan in the event that, the plants don't survive on that side, given that there is going to be a lot of shade on that side of the garage. So we're requesting the variance that we can try to incorporate into the design some sort of backup with the screening that we put in place, that in the event that the city's unable to maintain, a significant green wall over there, we can still have something in place that says, while we don't have a substantial green wall, we still have the ability to provide the screening that the neighbors are looking for. So we're still trying to have a green wall over here, but in the event that, a green wall just simply can't work over here, we want to be able to still meet the concerns of our neighbors. So that's pretty much the presentation. I'll turn it over to the board for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Jenowitz and your group. Now we're going to open up this petition to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this petition, in opposition? Yes, sir. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Paul Elfin, 200 Market Street. I'm also one of the trustees at Canal Place 3. Appreciate Joe reaching out to me today. We spoke a little bit on the phone. Just some of our concerns are in the third variance. Moving that entrance over to the northwest side is right next to our parking lot. Right now, that is our only mean of access to the parking lot for any large vehicles, fire trucks, ambulances, vans, moving trucks, anything like that. That's our only mean of access. And to have that entrance and exit right there, and close that off with bollards that, they say will be available for fire trucks. just hope that it kind of sets us off on an island. We do have access through Market Street right now. That was closed off for about 3 years for construction. There's plans to close it off again for construction, possibly permanently. And also that kind of zigzags through a parking lot. Fire trucks can't get through there. They sometimes pull up to the entrance of Canal Place 1, but they can't get back to Canal Place 3. The only way is over by Broadway through the National Park. You know, one of the things that we're hoping for, obviously first and most important, is emergency vehicles. So we hope that you're working with the fire department to find, you know, if this does go through, appropriate bollards that, you know, don't have to be unlocked. You know, the fire department visits us, you know, at least twice a year, whether we want them to or not. And we just want to make sure, but at the same time, we do have a parking lot there. We understand that we might lose access to that with this. We have engaged some real estate attorneys that are looking at right now what easement rights we have going through there. We're not quite sure where our easement rights are. We've done some preliminary research. We're not sure if we have easement rights up to Market Street or through Dutton Street. We're kind of having some attorneys look at that right now. But yeah, that's our main level concern. And we, at the same time, we also don't want that just to be open and cars taking a right and speeding through our parking lots as well. So, you know, we're really looking for you guys to help us out with this and come up with a solution. But it's just to cut us off like that and put us on an island of 113 units. It's kind of a tough place for us. So that, and then I think Joe spoke pretty well about the green wall, what we're looking for. We don't necessarily want the green wall to disappear. We just are worried about in the wintertime, if that green wall dies, we don't want there to be any shielding. My unit window is just, you know, 15 feet away from that. To have cars poking in there if the green wall is dead would, you know, be a disappointment. We worked a long time on this, you know, 10 years ago, getting all this here, that green wall. And at the time, we had the entrance to the parking lot over on the, north side. You know, and that's where the entrance originally was, and this third variance here moves it over right next to our parking lot and kind of closes it off from us. So that's our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition? In opposition? 1 minute, sir. That portion of the public hearing is closed. I'm going to open up to people who want to speak in favor, hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is, oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Claire Ricker. I'm the Chief Design Planner for the City of Lowell. I'm speaking in favor of this project. It's the first ground-up building in the Canal District. It's the first building that's really subject kind of to the prescriptions of the form-based code. And I'm reminded of the saying, to plan is human, to implement is divine. We've run into some really minor issues here related to dimensions, related to projections, related to things that will make this garage really a signature building, really the signature public building in the area that do require some slight variations to the code as written 10 years ago. It's the city's intention to continue to implement this code to the point where not only this project but other projects in the area, the infrastructure project, et cetera, will allow access to the Canal Place parking lot, to the NPS parking lots throughout construction. We have plans in place, temporary plans in place to maintain access to the Canal Place parking lot. We've been working with the Lowell Fire Department, Lowell Police Department, and the National Park Service to get a special use permit to drive through their parking lot in case of an emergency at Canal Place, which I know is a big concern of the neighbors. That said, we are on a bit of a schedule here. This is a garage that's planned to be open in conjunction with the Justice Center, which is moving along very quickly, more quickly than I could have hoped for. But this garage is intended to provide parking when that building opens and begins service. And so we would love to have the 900 to 1,000 spaces available for residents, for other people in the area, and certainly for you know, people who are coming to use the Justice Center as that area, you know, there is a parking shortage in the area already as it is. So I hope you'll consider, you know, these requests for variances. We're very pleased with this project and the design thus far. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Hearing none. Before I open it to the board, did anyone want to comment on the petition?
Things been falling down all day.
Thank you for picking that up.
Yeah, I just wanted, Justin Mosca again, I just wanted to clarify on the abutter's concern for the variance request. The requested variance is actually to pull the building off of the property line. If the variance wasn't requested, or it wasn't granted, the building would actually push further out to the property line. The problem with the Canal Place access right now is that it's on the parcel 14 property. The granting that variance doesn't affect whether or not their access gets cut off. We certainly would be curious to hear with a real estate attorney. I'm sure the city would like to know what those access requirements are if there's an easement out there. But as it relates to the variance that's being requested, that granting that variance doesn't negatively impact that access. It's actually the construction of the garage itself. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the position to the board. Mr. Jimena?
Yeah, good evening again.
What, the fire access? Oh, with the building across the existing driveway? Like Claire mentioned, we've been, it didn't show up in any of the slides that we have here, but we've been working with the National Park Service and the Lowell Fire Department and Police Department to make sure that we don't create an island, that there will be access both you know, during construction and after after the garage is completed, via means of a mountable curb, and then also either a removable bollard or an access gate that'll still allow pedestrian traffic through that. There's an existing hole in the fence right now, has a couple of granite planters in it, and we would replace those with a barrier that the fire trucks and the ambulances and whomever can get through.
Yeah, then the other question is how long this construction will last, do you know?
So right now, we're slated to finish construction probably in the late 2019. Construction will probably start, we're hoping, cross our fingers, sometime, notice to proceed would likely be in the middle of summer. So we're probably talking about a year and a half in terms of the total duration.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Jimena. Chair recognizes Mr. Breer.
Well, it's certainly apparent the pride that the administration has shown as you've made your presentation tonight. You exuded such pride. It's a proud day for Lowell. In my humble, limited capacity with this, I also am very proud to be a participant. As I think I speak on behalf of most of our residents that this is really a crowning achievement. It was absolutely vital to the success of the redevelopment of the area, the investment that's taking place there. And it should be noted that the persistence of the Murphy administration and our city council, as well as the diligence of his hardworking administration, should not go unnoticed. Thanks to you all and the commitment, it is, as I said, a very proud day for the city of Lowell. This is a big deal. I'm reminded of what Joe Biden once whispered into President Obama's ears, but I cannot use that word on television. But this, gentleman, is a big deal. Truly is. You're to be commended. Look forward to watching this as it unfolds.
Thank you, Mr. Breer. Chair recognizes Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo the sentiments that this is a big deal. It's amazing that you're in front of us, though, at all, because the form-based code, I always had such great expectations when it was enrolled, and I looked forward to all these easy projects just to kind of like flow and go in, and nothing would. But when you look at the variances here that you have in front of us, they are tiny in comparison to this project. It's you know, the dimensional characteristics like you talked about, because the form-based code didn't really take into consideration the structure that it could have and things like that. So, you know, the 6 elements here are really quite minimal in comparison to the project itself, for sure. However, I do have one question about the curb cut and the 60-foot wide or whatever crossing that we have. And it looks like it's going to be a pedestrian crossing somewhat. I'm not quite sure how much traffic it's going to receive. But can you speak to what kind of warning system you might have in place for something that's that wide with that many cars potentially coming and going?
A warning system?
Is there anything?
So
that
right
is-
now, the face of that garage is actually set fairly, with this request for variance number 3, I think it was, with the dimensional, actually, I should go back to it so you can see it. With that garage being pulled back, there actually is visibility now. So there's currently nothing proposed for any sort of like flashing beacons or anything of that nature. You know, there will be pedestrians coming across and vehicles exiting, certainly, but there's enough distance where that garage wall isn't on right up against the sidewalk like it would be on a city garage where you get that car coming down and they start beeping and warning the pedestrians. This one, they're actually coming, sorry, do you mind if I come in for a second? I can't use the laser pointer, and I just want to point something out. This island here, what Chris affectionately calls hot dog islands, that's the stop condition.
Okay.
For the cars, so when they're exiting, they're actually coming out and waiting here and trying to, you know, use the gates before they come out. So there's advanced warning for both pedestrians and for vehicles to be able to see each other.
Great. I think that says what I needed to hear, because I was just a little nervous with that many cars coming and going. And you know, the scale of this is a little lost, because it's massive. I mean, it really is. I mean, and I think you said there's about 3 or 4 cars that potentially are queuing there as well?
Yeah, so we ran queuing analysis, and it's actually the entering cars is the design queue, and we needed room for 3 cars, and we've got enough room there between the two. The 2 would be parked at on either side of the entering hot dog where the parking equipment is located, and then we've got room for 2 more cars before we even get to the street.
Nice. Very nice. And I think that preserving that green space on the west side, rather than having the exit over there, really I'm expecting that we're going to actually preserve that green space. It'll look great. Nice job. And I have high hopes for the form-based code still, but it's a rough start, kind of starting off but
I think it's
thank
hard
you.
at that level, the 10,000-foot level, to know what all the design details are going to be. Now that we know.
Now that we know.
That's why we're here.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. The chair recognizes Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the question I pretty much had was somewhat answered, because my question was going to be whether or not these are going to be the entrance and exits going to be manned by, you know, booths or whatnot, but certainly I'm guessing these are all self-service. You get your ticket, you got the big sign that says take your ticket with you.
Yeah, it'll operate similar to the other garages now, which have there'll be Prox cards for the monthly parkers, and then for the transients, they'll be pull the ticket, and then when you come back, there'll be payment machines in the lobbies of the elevators. They'll pay, and then they'll come down and they'll validate their ticket. So everybody has to stop at those gates, no matter if they're a monthly or a transient.
Yeah, I think, no, because I know like the Roy Garage still has a booth, I believe, and I think the John Street Garage still has a booth.
I'm working with the parking department. We're still deciding if he actually wants to have a manned booth or not. We're not showing it in any of these plans, but
I anticipate that's going to be, obviously, it's going to be a very busy garage with everything that's going
yeah,
down.
one thing I forgot to mention too is that we didn't just look at this in the context of the form-based code in terms of the queuing. We also have gotten some information from DCAM on the volumes of cars that are likely going to come from the Judicial Center. So I investigated the queuing both in a sense when it's like a majority of the parkers are from the Judicial Center before the other developments around this fill in. And then we also examined it, you know, who knows, 10 years, whatever, down the road when the rest of the development's filled in with, you know, mixed use type development and stuff too. So that's, you know, it's not just it's the forward thinking, not just, you know, what we're going to get day one.
Yeah. I'm sure you certainly figured out, and I'm glad to hear. I mean, I understand the concerns of you know, the residents as far as the access to getting to Canal Place, and sounds to me like you guys would be able to work that out. And I would imagine if there is some lawyer, if they get a lawyer, there's some other right-of-way issues involved, that'll work its way through the system.
Yeah,
as opposed to, but.
And the big thing with the stuff on that east side is obviously, you know, we want to protect them in terms of, you know, light trespass with the building, and then also privacy and provide screening. We don't want to just put up plants that, you know, they could go away in the winter.
Not that it would take away from any of it. I mean, I don't want to, you know, because I think the way that the district is and where it's going to be, the number of parking spaces are probably going to be necessary. But was there any look into part of that building being part of retail or anything, just like similar to the
We
early?
investigated.
Similar to the early garage?
We investigated that, and with the DPD's guidance, the demand that's anticipated in that district has really led us.
If Joe wants to speak to it.
As Joe sneaking up on me, has really led us to focus on trying to maximize the number of parking spaces. Right now, we're actually tracking a bit above you know, somewhere between 900 and 1,000. The benchmark we were looking for was 900. So, you know, trying to get you guys as many spaces in one project as possible.
Mr. General, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, just one other thing to add to that. So with this slide that's up here now, so the area that was identified as Street E in the code, originally at one time, if the entrance was going to be on that side of the garage, could have been an area where vehicles were going to drive down. Right there, that path there is going to be a material that, you know, a vehicle could go on, but it's only going to be for emergency vehicles. Or it could be food trucks for different events to be at this park area. It's not going to be an area where any car is going to be able to drive on it. Since we couldn't get the retail in the garage, we wanted to have a park space that, you know, could have different events there, since we have so many in the city.
No, I totally understand. I mean, yes, especially the courthouse alone I believe, is going to take up a lot of that space, especially during the regular business days, Monday through Friday. So, just looking, you know, as you guys, you know, it's the innovation district, trying to be innovative and forward thinking. So, just asking, but it's, as Mr. Perea pointed out, this is a staple. This is going to be a staple for the thing, and especially with the courthouse going up at a pretty fast pace now, it's got to be there pretty much by the time that courthouse is ready to roll. So I wish you the absolute best of luck, and looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. I think, in my opinion, this application or this petition, the parking garage, makes perfect sense. You know, as my colleague said, it's going to complement the Judicial Center really well, and I think it's due to the hard work of people like you guys in this administration and in the previous administration as well. You know, the downtown of any community is kind of the heart and soul of that community. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and you know, I think it'll do really well. And you know, I'm also very fortunate to be part of this process to make this happen as well. So I feel very gratitude towards that. I just want to, if the petitioner or the abutter could just come back to the podium for 1 minute, I just want to ask a few questions. So you're a trustee, right, from what?
Canal Place 3. This is the building directly behind with the white roof right there.
Okay.
Yep.
And you're nervous, or I think your concerns is access from
Yep, so you can see our parking lot right there, and you can see where the exit road is.
Yeah.
Right now, our entrance is right there where the exit road is, and that's how we enter and exit the building for all vehicular traffic. And that will now be closed off with just some bollards or something like that. And that would be the only way for fire trucks, ambulances, moving trucks, anything like that to get in. So that's the concern.
That's a concern. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we're mostly in favor of the garage. We can't wait. We love the Hamilton Canal District, but we just want to, you know, put this concern up there that, you know, hopefully it's at least some bollards that the fire trucks can get there easily and stuff like that.
Thank you, sir. That's all the comments or questions I have for you. I think one of the other members did talk to about, you know, access for fire or emergency vehicles. I would like a condition to make that also accessible to at least the residents of that building, if not a public way. Mr. Genowitz or the team, would you be amenable to that or speak to that?
Sure, we can certainly work with them. If access from what will be future Street G is necessary for their property, we can certainly work with them to see how we can get access for their property.
Okay, so hopefully that'll help. But overall, I think this is a great project. So with that being said, could I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2018-3. The applicant is City of Lowell for 350.4 Dutton Street for the following variances. Variance number 1 is for projections under section 10.3.8-2. Section 2, variance 2 is for the garage depth under section 10.3.8. Variance 3 is for the street wall percentages and maximum setbacks under section 10.3.8. Variance 4 is for the parking module for lower center bay. Variance 5 is for the curb cut width, section 6.1.10. And section 6 is for the green wall under section 10.3.8. With the following condition that the applicant work with DPD to provide access through the parking area for Canal Place.
Could I have a second on the motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Could I have a roll call?
Member Peck,
Approve the conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve a condition.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with condition.
Member Briere,
Approve with conditions.
Member Jamina.
Approve with condition.
Congratulations. You guys have been approved with conditions. Wish you the very best of luck. Thank you. So another business, we have minutes for approval for July 10th, 2017. Are there any comments to the minutes from July 10th, 2017 by the members? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 10th, 2017, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for July 10, 2017.
Anyone second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Minutes have been approved. We're going to adjourn the meeting if no one else has any other comments or anything. All right. Make a motion to adjourn.
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All right. Motion to adjourn. Have a good night, everybody.